Oh boy, Hitman 2 sure looks fun. Can't wait to play it. Well, that was a lot of fun. Oh well, I guess I can always just go back and play Hitman Blood Money again. Oh yeah, this game's freaking awesome! I forgot how good Blood Money is. But you know what would make it even better? If I could play as a woman.
Stavi majta!
Perfection. Hello Internet, it is me, the E-Man, and I love stealth games. Freaking $250 for this mask, and you can't even wear it on your face like a proper mask. What a ripoff. Now, I enjoy playing all kinds of stealth games, like Dishonored, Metal Gear Solid, Thief, the originals, Deus Ex, Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, not Assassin's Creed, but my absolute favorite stealth series is the Hitman franchise. Now, I've played all the Hitman games and thoroughly loved all of them. And even though the originals are really rough and don't hold up at all by today's standards, I still really enjoy playing them. Except Contracts. Contracts sucks. Now, seeing how much I enjoy playing the Hitman games, I love to find other smaller games that take the Hitman formula and do their own thing with it. And today, we're going to be talking about one of those games. A small European indie game called Wetwork. Wetwork is a Hitman-esque stealth action game set in Latvia sometime during the 2030s. Wetwork has an extremely simple plot. The player is a paid assassin killing members of a fascist political party that are trying to gain control over near-future Latvia. And that's it. That's the entirety of the story. But that's okay. Really, the main core of a stealth assassin game is its gameplay mechanics. So let's look at those. The base gameplay feels most similar to that of Hitman Blood Money, but the inventory system is closer to that of Silent Assassin. While the gameplay might be similar to Blood Money, Wetwork adds several new mechanics to the formula. The player can now jump at any time using the spacebar, which I really like. Even though it's not a necessary feature in the Hitman games, it is something I wish they included, so it's nice to see it here. The game automatically starts in a third-person perspective, but at any time this can be switched to a first-person point of view. I prefer to play the game in third person, but it is nice to have this feature, as a first-person view mode hasn't been in a Hitman game since Silent Assassin. Instead of starting a level every single time from the same fixed starting point, the player can choose from a list of several different spawn points, similar to the way it's done in the modern Hitman games. Wetwork gives the player a whole myriad of different weapons to use in their missions, both lethal and non-lethal, ranging from melee to handguns to rifles to snipers to shotguns. There's even a minigun in this game. Now, being set in the near future, some of the designs are pretty cool and unique, but there's also some Hitman classic staples, which I appreciate. There's also no fiberwire garrote in this game, which it's possible they left out because they didn't want to completely copy Hitman, or the combat knife makes it redundant. I'm still disappointed it's not there. I consider strangulation kills of some kind a staple to assassin video games. But that's just my personal taste. It doesn't really affect the game. Now, the one big difference between Wetwork and Hitman is that in Wetwork, the player has the choice between playing as a male assassin or a female assassin. Now, regardless of what gender the player picks, there isn't really a huge impact on gameplay. Honestly, the only effect I could see is that some of the disguises the player can equip can only be worn by men, and others can only be worn by women. And others still are unisex and can be worn by either gender. Other than that, there isn't really any difference. It's not like female assassins can seduce guards and male assassins are physically stronger. They both play basically the same, so yay for equality, I guess. Also, I discovered that you can't wear a disguise that you've put a bullet hole in, which is a really neat detail I really appreciate. Now, a staple mechanic of the Hitman series is the ability to throw an object to distract a guard and get them to go over and investigate the source of the sound. This mechanic is not present in Wetwork. Instead of throwing things in Wetwork, you whistle. By whistling, you're supposed to be able to distract a guard and get them to come investigate your current position. Now, in theory, this would work almost exactly the same. However, I just can't get this mechanic to work. I don't know if I'm doing it wrong or if it just straight up doesn't work. Regardless, Not having the ability to distract guards and make them move makes the game a lot harder than it should be. Now, when you start talking about the game's missions is when you also have to start talking about the game's problems. And the first problem is the fact that there's only 2 missions. That's right, there's only 2 missions in the whole game. Now, this first problem can, of course, immediately be excused by the fact that the game is in early access. It's not a finished product, and it's totally understandable. Although, it doesn't give me a lot of material to review here, but I'll try my best. Now, let's actually look at the missions we can play. Of the 2 playable missions, one is the game's tutorial, which takes place in a downtown city park. The other is the game's actual first mission, where you have to infiltrate a highly guarded mansion in an urban environment. The tutorial level is full of little nodes that pop open text bubbles as soon as you get close to them. It's actually quite an in-depth tutorial, as the text explains everything from simple to complex game actions. By the end, if you've explored the entire map and read all the nodes, you'll have a comprehensive knowledge of how to play the game. But that's just it, you actually have to explore the map to read everything. The information isn't forced on the player in a step-by-step process, which makes it feel a lot less intrusive than a lot of other game tutorials. Plus, some of the nodes are really catty and sarcastic and don't actually give any helpful information, and I love it. Each of the missions offers a handful of different objectives for the player to complete, with some being mandatory while others are optional. There's also a multitude of different ways that the player can go about completing each objective, with some ways being more challenging than others. This also allows for a certain degree of replayability. Now, this sounds great, however, the 2 missions currently included in the game are relatively simple, and the maps are small to medium-sized and pretty straightforward. Even with extra time to replay, explore, and experiment, in its current state, the entire game can be completely beaten in less than 2 hours. After successfully completing a mission, the player is given a rank based off of their performance. Now, this rank is dependent on factors such as how many objectives were completed and how stealthy the player was. If a player wants the absolute highest ranking, they have to complete all of the objectives, be a total silent assassin, and also not bring any items with them at the start of the game, kind of like a purist mode. Wetwork's combat system also leaves a lot to be desired. Stealth takedowns are pretty much limited to the use of your combat knife and lethal and non-lethal syringes, like in Hitman Blood Money. You can also punch people, but it's not as effective, and it can attract the attention of guards. Okay, now I know the point of a stealth game is to avoid combat at all costs. However, in a good stealth game, you can usually screw up and still salvage the mission by surviving a little bit of combat through skill and without, hopefully, alerting the entire map. However, in Wetwork, you will not survive a direct firefight. It's almost impossible. It's better to just restart the entire mission. Also in Wetwork, if a single guard notices you doing something suspicious and decides to engage you, the entirety of all the guards on the map will converge on your immediate location instantly. So there's almost no way to neutralize the one suspicious guard and salvage the mission. The shooting controls feel very similar to the ones in Hitman Blood Money, where you have to hold down to aim and then fire. However, here they're a little bit more awkward. It's okay when you're trying to line up a silenced shot to take out one target, but if you're trying to fight multiple guards at once with an automatic weapon, yeah, forget it. Now, when I said it's better to restart completely when you screw up, I mean restart completely. Wetwork does not allow you to save your progress in the middle of a mission. I consider this a big no-no, as assassin games are supposed to be about experimentation. It's very hard to experiment when you have to restart the entire mission when you screw up, regardless of how far you've already gotten. The only saving grace there is, as I said, the levels don't take that long to beat, so it's not a massive ordeal to completely restart. Wetwork also suffers from absolutely horrendous load times. The tutorial mission loads pretty quickly in a matter of only seconds, but starting up the game itself or loading the first real mission can take upwards of 3 minutes. That's pretty unacceptable considering it's not a super intensive game, and I'm running this on a pretty powerful PC, so I don't think that's the problem here. The game also lacks any kind of background music whatsoever, which really hurts the game's atmosphere and leads to large periods of silence. This also makes the sound effects that are there really stick out and feel pretty unnatural. In the end, I think Wetwork has a lot of potential. As a finished product, I could see it being a fun little game, but in its current state, it's just really hard to recommend, especially when you consider the fact that it's $11.50 Canadian for less than 2 hours of gameplay. That is really steep in my opinion. The whole project really feels like a demo or a vertical slice, even more so than other early access games. If this was something free on IndieDB or GameJolt, I'd definitely say go play it for yourself. But as an $11 Steam game, not so much. I've also never seen it go on sale even once, so I can't even recommend waiting for a Steam sale to pick it up. There is a free demo of it on Steam. I don't really know what that entails, maybe just the tutorial mission. So if you want to try that out, well, knock yourself out. I had fun with the game, but in the end, I'd probably regret having bought it if I wasn't making this video for it. That's pretty much it. It's fun, but nothing special. That being said, it is definitely way better than Contracts. This game absolutely sucks. Oh shoot, did it actually break? I think it actually broke. Oh my god, it did! Ah, I broke it!